गुड मॉर्निंग। लीगल अवेयरनेस वेब सीरीज के एक नए एपिसोड में आपका स्वागत है, वेलकम। बात तो मुझे करनी चाहिए थी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन सीरीज में आर्टिकल 2 और 3 की, लेकिन क्योंकि आर्टिकल 3 के बारे में करम थापर से इंटरव्यू में जो आप देख सकते हैं कुछ जिक्र आ गया। अब देश में एक एंजाइटी है कि शायद पूरे देश में एनआरसी लागू की जा रही है, कौन भारत का सिटीजन है कौन नहीं है। तो मेरे ऊपर बहुत इस बात का प्रेशर था कि मैं पहले आर्टिकल 5 कर दूं, इसलिए आज हम बात करेंगे आर्टिकल 5 की। लेकिन उससे पहले मैं ये चाहूँगा कि मैं आप सबका बहुत शुक्रिया और धन्यवाद करूं कि लीगल अवेयरनेस वेब सीरीज को अब आप लोगों ने 10 लाख मिनट देख लिया है और 40,000 से ज़्यादा सब्सक्राइबर हो गए हैं। तो मैं जिन लोगों ने अभी से सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया है उनसे रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा, निवेदन करूंगा कि वो सब्सक्राइब करें और बेल आइकन को भी क्लिक करें। देखिए, सिटीजनशिप जो है ये एक आइडिया है एक्सक्लूजन का, लोगों को बाहर निकालने का आइडिया है। तो जो सिटीजन है वो अपने हैं और जो सिटीजन नहीं है वो हमारे नहीं। सिटीजनशिप जो है वो लोगों के बारे में नहीं, वो स्टेट के बारे में है, क्योंकि सिटीजनशिप स्टेट और लोगों की जो रिलेशनशिप है उस रिलेशनशिप को दर्शाता है। अब सिटीजनशिप के बारे में दो मेन थ्योरीज हैं। एक थ्योरी को कहते हैं जस्ट सोली, यूनिवर्सल थ्योरी है, लिबरल थ्योरी है, कहती है कि जिसने भी किसी एक कंट्री में पैदा हो गया कोई शख्स, उसको उस मुल्क की शहरियत मिलनी चाहिए। अब अमेरिका में देखिए कि जो भी बच्चा अमेरिका में पैदा हो जाता है वो अमेरिकन नेशनल बन जाता है, और भारत के लाखों लाखों लोग ऐसे हैं जो अमेरिका के नेशनल इसी तरह से बन गए कि उनके माँ बाप अमेरिका गए और वो बच्चा वहां पैदा हुआ, वो सिटीजन बन गया। दूसरी थ्योरी जो जरा रिग्रेसिव है और रेशियल है, वो बर्थ पे नहीं जाती, बल्कि वो आपका बाप कौन था और आपका दादा कौन था, इस पे सिटीजनशिप डिसाइड करती है। जब हिंदुस्तान का दस्तूर या कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बना तो आर्टिकल 5 में, एक तो पहली बात हम ये समझ लें कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ने सिटीजन की डेफिनेशन नहीं दी, सिटीजन की तारीफ नहीं की, बल्कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ने ये बताया कि किस किस तरह के सिटीजन होंगे। तो व्हाट सिटीजन की डेफिनेशन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में नहीं है। अब कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में आर्टिकल 5 में सबसे पहले, और ये जो सिटीजनशिप वाला लॉ था कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में, ये 26 नवंबर 1949 से लागू हो गया, जबकि बाकी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जो है वो 26 जनवरी 1950 से लागू होगा। तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के आर्टिकल 5 ने ये कहा कि भारत में जो भी शख्स पैदा हो गया जिस वक्त कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन वजूद में आया, वो इंडिया का शहरी है। अगर वो शख्स के माँ बाप में से कोई भारत में पैदा हो गया तो वो भारत का सिटीजन है। और तीसरी चीज ये कही कि कोई भी शख्स जो 5 साल से भारत में रह रहा था जिस वक्त कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हमने बनाया, वो भारत का सिटीजन हो। तो भारत की सिटीजनशिप जब कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बना, बर्थ की बुनियाद पे हर उस शख्स को मिली जो भारत में पैदा हुआ, या उसके माँ बाप भारत में पैदा हुए, या फिर वो 5 साल से भारत में रह रहा था। अब इसके बाद आर्टिकल 11 ने पार्लियामेंट को यह हक दे दिया कि वो सिटीजनशिप फ्यूचर के लिए डिसाइड करे। तो सिटीजनशिप एक्ट पार्लियामेंट ने 1955 में बनाया, और उसके बाद उसमें उन्होंने 2087 में 86 में अमेंडमेंट किया, फिर 2003 में किया, फिर 2015 में किया। मैं उन अमेंडमेंट्स में आज नहीं जाना चाहता हूं, लेकिन ये बात मैं चाहता हूं कि देश समझे, और ये जो लोग लॉ नहीं जानते, एक अफवाह फैला रखी है, एक सरकार के खिलाफ भी माहौल बनाया जा रहा है, एक डर और भय का माहौल बना जा रहा है। मैं चाहता हूं कि देश उससे बचे और सही कानून को समझे। तो ये सेक्शन 3 है अब जो डिफाइन करेगा सिटीजनशिप एक्ट के कि आज की डेट में भारत का सिटीजन कौन है। तो सेक्शन 3 ये कहता है कि हर वो आदमी जो 26 जनवरी 1950 से बाद पैदा हुआ और 1 जुलाई 1987 से पहले पैदा हुआ, 26 जनवरी 1950 से 1 जुलाई 1987 के बीच जो भी हिंदुस्तान में पैदा हुआ वो इंडियन सिटीजन है। दूसरी शर्त, अगर कोई आदमी 1 जुलाई 1987 के बाद पैदा हुआ, फिर 2003 में जब वाजपेयी जी की गवर्नमेंट थी, सिटीजनशिप एक्ट में एक अमेंडमेंट हुआ था, वो अमेंडमेंट जो है वो कमेंस हुआ 3 दिसंबर 2004 से। तो यानी कोई भी शख्स जो 1 जुलाई 1987 से 2 दिसंबर 2004 के बीच में पैदा हुआ, वो इंडियन का सिटीजन माना जाएगा अगर उसके मां बाप में से एक भी इंडिया का सिटीजन है। 1950 से 1987 तक जो भी भारत में पैदा हो गया वो सिटीजन है, मां बाप से कोई मतलब नहीं। अब 1987 से 2004 तक वो सिटीजन माना जाएगा जो मैंने आपको बताया, जस्ट सैंगुइस के मां और बाप और दादा को देखकर सिटीजनशिप दी जाएगी। ये देखा जाएगा कि दोनों में से, मां बाप में से एक इंडिया का सिटीजन हो। तीसरी चीज, जो 2002 से जब ये आ गया कमेंसमेंट में 3 दिसंबर 2004 से 2003 वाला अमेंडमेंट, तो जो लोग 2003 के बाद हिंदुस्तान में पैदा हुए हैं उनको इंडिया का सिटीजन जब माना जाएगा, अब ये शर्त सख्त कर दी गई कि मां बाप में से एक इंडिया का सिटीजन हो, नहीं, अब दोनों इंडिया के सिटीजन हो तो उनको सिटीजनशिप मिल जाएगी। ये कैटेगरी हो गई। तो हर वो आदमी जो 2003-4 के बाद पैदा हुआ, 2003 के अमेंडमेंट के हिसाब से, अगर उसके दोनों मां बाप हिंदुस्तानी हैं तो वो इंडिया का सिटीजन माना जाएगा। एक और इसमें बात क्लॉज डाली गई कि अगर उसके दोनों मां बाप हिंदुस्तानी सिटीजन नहीं है, तो अगर उसका एक दोनों में से इंडिया का सिटीजन है और दूसरा इलीगल इमिग्रेंट नहीं है, तो उसको इंडियन सिटीजनशिप मिल जाएगी, इंडिया का सिटीजन, उसको शहरी माना जाएगा। और इलीगल इमिग्रेंट वो है जो हिंदुस्तान में एंटर किया या घुसा, जिसके पास वीजा नहीं था या कोई वैलिड ट्रेवल डॉक्यूमेंट नहीं था, वो आदमी जो है वो इलीगल इमिग्रेंट माना जाएगा। तो कौन है आज भारत का सिटीजन? हर वो शख्स जो 1950 से 1987 के बीच भारत में पैदा हुआ, हर वो शख्स जो 1987 से 2004 के बीच भारत में पैदा हुआ और उसके मां बाप में से एक भारत का शहरी था। जो लोग 2004 के बाद भारत में पैदा हुए, या तो उनके दोनों मां बाप भारत के शहरी हों या उनमें से एक शहरी हो और दूसरा इलीगल इमिग्रेंट ना हो। अब रामनाथ कोविंद जी जो हमारे प्रेसिडेंट हैं, इन्होंने जब नई लोकसभा बनी तो 20 जून को उसको एड्रेस किया और उसमें उन्होंने नेशनल पॉपुलेशन रजिस्टर का जिक्र किया। उसके बाद एक नोटिफिकेशन हुआ जिस नोटिफिकेशन में ये बात आई कि साथ नेशनल पॉपुलेशन रजिस्टर बनाया जाएगा 1 अप्रैल 2020 से 30 सितंबर 2020 तक। ये नेशनल पॉपुलेशन रजिस्टर एनआरसी नहीं है। नेशनल पॉपुलेशन रजिस्टर 2003 के अमेंडमेंट के तहत था, 2010 में भी इसमें कुछ कार्रवाई हुई थी। अब उसको दोबारा करने की बात की जा रही है। मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूं कि इस रजिस्टर के बाद, नेशनल पॉपुलेशन रजिस्टर के बाद नेशनल सिटीजनशिप रजिस्टर नहीं बनेगा, ये मैं नहीं कह रहा हूं, लेकिन दोनों का फर्क समझना चाहिए। नेशनल पॉपुलेशन रजिस्टर रिकॉर्ड है कि कौन आदमी किस जगह रहता है। इसमें नेशनल पॉपुलेशन रजिस्टर में यह देखा जाएगा कि आप क्या जिस जगह पे रह रहे हैं, अगर आप किसी जगह पे 6 महीने से रह रहे हैं, आप वहां रिकॉर्ड कर लिए जाएंगे, या किसी जगह पे आप अगले 6 महीने रहने वाले हैं, वहां रिकॉर्ड कर लिए जाएंगे। लेकिन ये जो नेशनल पॉपुलेशन रजिस्टर अब बनेगा 2020 से 1 अप्रैल 2020 से 30 सितंबर 2020 तक, इसमें डेमोग्राफिक डेटा भी होगा और बायोमेट्रिक डेटा भी होगा। मैं क्योंकि एक लॉ का स्टूडेंट हूं, मैं बायोमेट्रिक डेटा के पर्सनली फेवर में नहीं हूं, क्योंकि बायोमेट्रिक डेटा का मिसयूज होने का चांसेस रहते हैं। दूसरी चीज ये है कि जो कभी अगर नेशनल सिटीजनशिप रजिस्टर बना, ये मुमकिन है कि ये जो पहले पॉपुलेशन रजिस्टर बन जाए, फिर इसके बेसिस पे बाद में नेशनल सिटीजनशिप रजिस्टर बनाया जाए। तो उसमें जो डॉक्यूमेंट्स जरूरी होंगे, उसमें ये वाला लॉ जो मैंने आपको बता दिया, अगर जैसे मेरी मदर की सिटीजनशिप का मुद्दा है, तो मेरी मदर तो 1950 से पहले पैदा हो चुकी थी, तो वो तो कमेंसमेंट ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पे सिटीजनशिप आर्टिकल 5 जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का है उसके तहत उन्हें सिटीजनशिप मिल जाएगी। जो 1950 से 1987 से पहले है, जो भारत में पैदा हो गया, वो सिटीजन है। 87 से 2003 तक उसके माँ बाप में से एक सिटीजन होना चाहिए। 2003 के बाद या तो दोनों माँ बाप हो, या एक माँ बाप में से एक इंडियन सिटीजन हो, दूसरा इलीगल इमिग्रेंट ना हो, ये देखा जाएगा। अब इसमें जो रिकॉर्ड देखा जाएगा, तो वो रिकॉर्ड जो वहां देखा जा रहा है आसाम में 24 मार्च 1971, वो बन जाएगा अब 30 जून 1987। यानी रिकॉर्ड 71 का अब नहीं देखा जाएगा, ये रिकॉर्ड अब देखा जाएगा 1987 का, जब नेशनल सिटीजनशिप रजिस्टर बनेगा, ना कि नेशनल पॉपुलेशन रजिस्टर। अभी जो आने वाली अप्रैल 2020 में बनने जा रहा है, वो पॉपुलेशन रजिस्टर बनने जा रहा है। पर मैं पूरे देश से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि पॉपुलेशन रजिस्टर में अपने नाम को, अपने मोहल्ले वालों के नाम को उसमें दर्ज कराएं। हर मोहल्ले में कोई एनजीओ हो तो वो एनजीओ का ऑफिस बना ले। अगर टेंपल्स हैं, चर्चेस हैं, मस्जिदें हैं, उसमें एक कोई ऑफिस बना ले। ये इन्वेस्टमेंट करना चाहिए हमको। और उसमें आपके पास अगर पासपोर्ट है, एलआईसी है, गवर्नमेंट का दिया हुआ कोई लाइसेंस है, आपके पास बोर्ड का कोई सर्टिफिकेट है, यूनिवर्सिटी का सर्टिफिकेट है, आपके पास कोई और लीगली एडमिसिबल डॉक्यूमेंट है, राशन कार्ड है, आधार है, तो ये सारे डॉक्यूमेंट्स जो हैं वो देखे जाएंगे। लेकिन उस वक्त जब वो नेशनल सिटीजनशिप रजिस्टर बनेगा, तब बताए जाएंगे असलियत में कौन से डॉक्यूमेंट देखे जाएंगे। लेकिन मेरी पूरे देशवासियों से रिक्वेस्ट है कि सब अपना बर्थ का रिकॉर्ड या प्रॉपर्टी रिकॉर्ड, लैंड रिकॉर्ड, किसी ने भी वोट दिया होगा। अब 1987 पे अगर हम हैं, तो लोकसभा इलेक्शन 1984 में हुआ है, तो 1984 वाले इलेक्शन रोल में आपका नाम हो या आपके पेरेंट्स का नाम हो, मैं समझता हूं कि देश को उसमें घबराने की जरूरत नहीं है। जो सिटीजनशिप का लॉ असम में है, वो देश से डिफरेंट है। वहां की कट ऑफ डेट 24 मार्च 1971 की मिडनाइट है, और यहां पर ये 1 जुलाई वाली, यानी 30 जून और 1 जुलाई वाली जो मिडनाइट होगी 1987 की, वो कट ऑफ होगी। परेशान ना हो, एंजाइटी ना दिखाएं, सरकार पर ट्रस्ट रखें, अपने डॉक्यूमेंट्स अच्छी तरह प्रिपेयर करें। मैं समझता हूं कि ये नेशनल पॉपुलेशन रजिस्टर वाली एक्सरसाइज जो है, ये अगर हमें को डॉक्यूमेंट्स बनाने में सपोर्ट करे तो ये बेहतर एक्सरसाइज है। लेकिन मेरी लीगल पोजीशन और पर्सनल राय ये है कि इस एक्सरसाइज से एट द एंड हमको बहुत कोई बड़ा रिजल्ट नहीं मिलने वाला। आसाम में हम 1500 करोड़ से ज्यादा खर्च कर चुके हैं, लेकिन हम देख रहे हैं कि कितने हमारे ही सिटीजन एक्सक्लूड हो गए, और अब जो बीजेपी सरकार है वो खुद उसमें बैक ट्रैक कर रही है। इसी तरह अगर हमने पूरे देश में बनाया, तो हम कोई 1 करोड़ लोग भी नहीं निकाल पाएंगे जिनको हम ये कहेंगे कि ये फॉरेनर्स हैं और इनको हम डिपोर्ट कर रहे हैं। 1 करोड़ लोगों का डिपोर्टेशन भी एट द एंड ऑफ जजमेंट बाई फॉरेनर ट्रिब्यूनल मुश्किल होगा। इसलिए मैं समझता हूं कि हम खोदेंगे पहाड़ और उसमें से निकलेगी चिड़िया। लीगल अवेयरनेस वेब सीरीज अगर आपको पसंद आती है तो मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है, निवेदन है कि आप इसको सब्सक्राइब को क्लिक कर दें, जो आपके स्क्रीन पे नजर आ रहा है नीचे की तरफ, और उसके बराबर में बेल आइकन को भी क्लिक कर दें। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, शुक्रिया, थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Thank you, Professor. Taking the discussion forward on evolution of citizenship in India, I'm requesting Professor Neera Chandhoke, retired professor from Delhi University, to share her perspective. Thank you.
And thank you very much. I stand here to share my concerns about a wider phenomena that underpins this entire exercise in mapping out who is a citizen and who is not a citizen. For a long time, it was held that there are 2 kinds of nations, And the whole problem of the nation wanting its own state. A nation becomes a problem when it wants monopoly over economic and political power. जब वो सत्ता में आना चाहता है, you can belong to a nation, it's not an issue. But when that nation wants to monopolize power, then how people are held to be insiders and outsiders. Since Hans Cohen, who wrote in the aftermath of the Second World War, theorized, there are two kinds of nations. There are civic nations, France, US, and the UK. And there are ethnic nations, East Europe, Russia, and of course they would put in a whole range of Asian countries there. In India, we have seen ever since the 1920s and 1930s that civic nationalism, nationalism which is based upon the rights, what does it belong to be a citizen, what does it mean to be a citizen of India, has been inextricably mixed up with the idea of who is a citizen. Consider this, 1923 Savarkar wrote his Who is a Hindu? And in the 1930s, Nehru wrote a piece anonymously on who is a citizen of India. So we have two notions of citizenship, ethnic nationalism, which is not a very nice form of nationalism because it involves the politics of blood and belonging, along with civic nationalism coming up. And the Western world has not been exempt from it. The critical theorist Hobsbawm, the historian, has remarked that you look at France, which was supposed to be the epitome of civic nationalism. They had their revolution on liberty, equality, fraternity. Today the French cannot stand immigrants. They want immigrants to get out. You look at the Prime Minister of UK, who refers in the most derogatory terms, who has referred to women wearing the burqa. You look at the President of the United States and you look at our own country. So in a way, this whole notion of who belongs and who does not belong is part of the idea of civic nationalism. We can no longer assume India used to be a civic nation and now it's become an organic because both these streams came together. A statesperson, a statesman, I know it's not a gender neutral term, is somebody who recognizes that mere samaj mein darar hai. There are schisms in my society. I have to cover them up. I have to build bridges. A politician, a populist politician is somebody who creates and widens these schisms. And I'm afraid we are in for a period of this kind of widening of schism through the basic question. And what Faizan Saab just showed us right now, not very nice times are in store for all of us. We really have to prove that we belong to India. So briefly with this background, I want to, just before I start, there's a philosophical analogy. You know, medieval theologians in the Catholic Church used to have a very interesting question. They used to pose it to themselves. How many angels can dance on the head of a pin? The philosophical implication is that two and more things can happen at the same moment in time. But two and more things cannot happen at the same moment in space, the same point in space. If more than one angel tries to dance on the head of the pin, she or he will be pushed off, right? Nations are a bit like that. Is it time to do away with this whole concept of a nation state? It has been one of the biggest mistakes in history. It has led to innumerable tragedies. You look at Bangladesh, you look at Sri Lanka. 3 million people died in Bangladesh. And the number of people who died between January and June 2009, the last phase of the civil war in Sri Lanka, 40,000 Tamils. UN figures, these are not my figures. So that one group can have a monopoly over the state, over resources, over power. What is this kind of vanity? It is time to rethink the nation state. It is time to rethink what is citizenship. Shankar Guha Niyogi of Chhattisgarh Mukti Morcha had given us a good idea. Maybe we should talk about it. But that is for another meeting. Okay, when we look at Assam, the roots of the issue go back to the 19th century. In the 19th century, the British, the colonial government, discovered tea and oil, and they discovered coal. Now, Assam is a resource-rich and a land surplus state. It used to be in the 19th century. And the British then brought Bengali Hindus from then undivided Bengal, and of course Assam was also undivided. So we're actually speaking of a problem that goes beyond the borders of contemporary Assam to fill the offices of tea estates and mines and governments. At the same time, they brought Bengali Muslims from East Bengal, what is now Bangladesh, to farm along the river because they're experts at farming, at riverbed farming. By the beginning of the 20th century, non-Assamese formed a substantial portion, or Bengali speakers formed a substantial portion of Assam. And this evoked fears and trepidation in the hearts of the middle class educated Assamese, particularly because the British government had imposed Bengali on Assam from 1837 to 1873. Assam has a rich literary and cultural heritage, a written heritage, like Manipur. And that really evoked fears. So we have an upsurge of cultural mobilization in the first decade of the 20th century. In 1903, the Assamese Association, 1916, the first Student Association, Assam Chhatra Sammelan, in 1970, the Assam Sahitya Sammelan. But it was really the census of 1931 that created waves of communal upsurge. You know, historians have told us that census reports create the notion of Hindus and Muslims who cannot live together. So the Census Commissioner, Mullen, for Assam writes, one of the most important events in the province has, in the last 25 years, has been an influx of Bengali Muslims. He never mentioned Hindus. And he went on to say they are land hungry. There are about 500,000 of them. And in another 30 years, only Sibasagar will be the only district that doesn't have a Muslim majority. This is part of a very large inflammatory paragraph. Actually, you can wonder why a representative of the colonial government would say such a thing, creating divides when there were none. But anyway, the job had been done, and the communal divide, as in the rest of India, was implanted in Assam. 1947, of course, a wave of migration. In 1960, Assam got its own language, Assamese, with the division of the linguistic states. And in 1971, of course, you have another wave of migration from what is now Bangladesh. The Indian Citizenship Act 1955 for the Northeast had fixed the date of citizenship at 26 January 1950, which Faizan Saab has already said. After the 1971 war, the date was extended to 25th March 1971. Now, this was the date when the Pakistani army had mounted an onslaught on what is now Bangladesh. Mrs. Gandhi, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman agreed that there will be a new cut-off date. So whoever came to India before this date, March 1971, is a citizen of India. Bangladesh said we will not accept anybody who has migrated to Assam before this date. This catapulted major protests among student organizations, and in the process we have the formation of the All Assam Students' Union. In 1979, discontent boiled over. I'm giving you very broad patterns. I don't want to take much time because of a by-election in Mangaldoyi parliamentary constituency. Somebody had died, so there was a by-election. Now, Asu pointed out that 37% of the electorate in this by-election are actually what they called illegal immigrants. And the electoral rolls should be redone. When the Election Commission went ahead and announced election, 4 students' organizations met and formed the Gana Sangram Parishad. And this sparked off a wave of protest. 6 November 1979, a large rally in Guwahati. Schools are closed down, universities are closed down, offices shut down, people go on strike. And they started demanding, the students, that immigrants from Bangladesh should be deported on the basis of the Citizenship Act of 1955. Again, you have the head of the pin, that anybody else who tries to occupy that space should be out. And that a national register of citizens should be created. Activists asked the people to boycott the 1983 state assembly elections and the national elections. This was actually to lead to one of the biggest communal riots in India, Delhi. 1,600 to 2,000 people died. Why? They were massacred. The Caravan has run a story recently upon the Delhi survivors. They were massacred because they wanted to go and vote. You see, Assam sees very high voter turnout because that receipt is very important to establishing your identity. And the Assamese poet Udipana Goswami asks a question. I'll end here. How does a river die? A river like Rangi. Do you have to dam her, drain her, dig her in order to kill her? She was referring to the dead who were floated into the river, pushed into the river. Do you need to tell her that she is no more? Your mother, lover, sister, friend. Or do you, like the ancient kings, I'm finishing, choke her with the blood of 1,000 foes? The subsequent events have been discussed today, so I won't go deeply into them. 1985, the Assam Accord, 3 different phases of immigrants. And in 1986, India's Citizenship Act is changed to incorporate the developments in Assam. And then the whole resurrection of the citizenship, who is a citizen, before the Supreme Court in December 2014. 2 last points, or rather one last point. The principle of detention and detection is being implemented after almost 3 decades. And people are being asked to produce papers which they may not possess. Most of the residents are poor and illiterate. They don't have the necessary papers. They've lost them during floods and during storms. The updating of the NRC by an openly majoritarian government is cause for great alarm. Some people have committed suicide in Assam. Some have been harassed by the border police, and others have been shut into morbid detention centers. And there is a climate of fear, and I end by this particular heartrending story from what the NRC has done. On 7th April 2019, Shaukat Ali, a 8-year-old Muslim in the Bishwanath Cherali area of Assam, which is part of the Tejpur constituency, had stepped outside his eatery at 3 p.m. to offer namaz. He was surrounded, thrashed, and attacked by a mob. The small eatery that he owned was ransacked. The mob forced him to eat pork and kept saying, "Are you a Bangladeshi? Or are you a resident?" Now, he was perfectly original resident of Assam. His father had been there. They had the necessary papers. Newspapers and television channels broadcast this disturbing and haunting picture of Shaukat Ali forced into a puddle of slush. Harassed, woebegone, encircled by a mob drunk on power, his white beard bedraggled, his body stripped of the dignity that every human being commands, irrespective of whether she is a citizen or not a citizen. They kept quiet, the crowd kept haranguing him whether his name was in the National Citizens Register. This is what alignment of citizenship with a majoritarian India has done to India. This is what the devaluation of minority communities have done to our country. We should really start rethinking. And I urge this group of very valued civil society organizations to start a debate on whether we should start reconceptualizing citizenship. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Chandhoke. That was brilliant. Advocate Mihir Desai, Bombay High Court. Thanks.
I just wanted to focus on two things because the video of Professor Mustafa has already covered a lot of ground in terms of the legal aspects of the Citizenship Act. But there are two aspects I just wanted to focus on. One is, of course, that when one is discussing the law concerning citizenship, it's also important to discuss the law concerning what happened. Okay, this is fine. That's fine. Okay. It's also important to consider the law concerning foreigners because both go parallel together. That how are foreigners defined and what are their rights, obligations, etc. That becomes important to consider. Now, if you look at the Indian scenario, the act which is presently in operation is the Foreigners Act of 1946. Prior to that, even in 19th century, there were laws concerning foreigners in India and kept on changing from time to time. And right now, you have the 1946 Foreigners Act, which basically says that if you are a foreigner, you can be in India only with certain, only with valid travel documents, etc. And even if you are in India, you will have certain restricted rights, etc. As the Supreme Court has said that a citizen would have all would be able to exercise all fundamental rights under the Constitution. A foreigner, on the other hand, would only be able to exercise fundamental right under Article 21, that is right to life and personal liberty. So the other rights, so the distinction as to what happens if you are declared a foreigner is that you will not be able to exercise most of the other rights which are available to citizens. That's one aspect. Foreigners Act, but apart from Foreigners Act, you also have what is called the Passports Act and various rules under various legislations, the Census Act, the Passport Act, various rules. Foreigners Act, the most important thing is, of course, Section 9 of the Foreigners Act, which provides that the burden of proving that you are not a foreigner is on you. Yeah. So, if it is alleged that I am a foreigner, it is for me to prove that I am not a foreigner. Therefore, it is important. Therefore, the documentation which has to be brought has to be brought by me. The obligation is on me. It is not the obligation of a person who alleges on the state to say that okay, we found you here, now we presume you to be a foreigner, prove that you are not a foreigner, and then I have to prove that I am not a foreigner. So that becomes a very that's a crucial aspect of the Foreigners Act. There is, under the Foreigners Act, you have various orders which are issued. The two major orders which were issued was 1948 order, which basically defined where foreigners, which are the areas foreigners cannot go into, what are the kind of properties they cannot acquire, etc., etc. So that provided for the conditionalities under which foreigners would stay in India. That's 1948 order. And there is a 1964 order, which is the Foreigners Tribunals order under the Foreigners Act, under which the Foreigners Tribunals are established or to be established across the country. The Foreigners Tribunals established in Assam are under this order. Other parts of the country also, they can be established. They have by and large not been established anywhere else, but they can be established essentially to detect foreigners, declare people as foreigners, etc. That's the purpose of these tribunals. Coming back to the first thing which I wanted to talk about, what is important to understand is that in 1920 there was a passport entry into India regulation, a law, which basically provides us to when can you enter into India. If you are a foreigner, when can you enter into India? And it says that you can enter into India provided you have a valid passport. Certain countries' passport may be exempted, then you should have a valid travel document, that is a visa or some other travel document. Rules under this were framed in 1950. Okay. Passport entry into India rules. Now in 2015 and 2016, there is an amendment to the Foreigners Order of 1948. Please understand that these are non-legislative measures, in the sense they don't have to be put before the parliament, so they go undetected at times. So to Foreigners Order of 1948 and Passport Entry into India Regulation Rules 1950, there are amendments. What do the amendments say? The amendments say that if you are a foreigner who has entered into India without a passport or without a visa, and if you are coming from Pakistan, Bangladesh or Afghanistan, and if you are a Hindu, Christian, Sikh or Buddhist or Parsi, then you will not be subjected to the same kind of rigors which a foreigner otherwise would be subjected. Okay. There is a lot of talk about non-Muslims from these three countries being given citizenship in India. Okay. On being given citizenship in India. These amendments don't lead to citizenship, but they at least protect your stay in India. So if I am able to prove that I am a Hindu from Bangladesh or from Pakistan or from Afghanistan, and I have entered India because of some persecution or because I fear persecution, and I have entered India before 30th December 2014, then you can't throw me out of India. Basically that. So if I am a Muslim, even if I am a Rohingya, or even if I am an Ahmadiyya, I can be thrown out. But if I am a Hindu, Sikh, Christian, etc. from these three countries, then I can't be thrown out. Now there is a clear communal introduction of law which has already taken place. This is not something which we are talking about future. This has come. This is on the law books today. Okay? It was brought in 2015 and 2016. So we must understand the changes which are now likely to come on the basis of these this law. The second thing I quickly wanted to, so this is one aspect which I think we must keep in mind, the direction in which the law is going. 2015-16 this started, and there is already talk that it will be converted into a citizenship kind of an amendment. Right now it's only an amendment to the Foreigners Order and the Passport Entry into India rules. Okay? The second thing I just wanted to talk about is under the, and as it was mentioned earlier, the citizenship in India, if you go by the Citizenship Act, okay, can be acquired in 5 ways. Okay. One is by birth. If you are born in India, then depends on whether you are born after 87, before 87, after 2004, whether one of your parents is a citizen of India or not. That's one aspect. The second way of acquiring citizenship is, of course, by what is known as naturalization. Okay. Naturalization is that you are an original Indian, you have been out of India, you come to India, you stay in India for some time and you acquire a citizenship. So to begin with, you are not a citizen of India, you are a citizen of some other country. That's called registration. The third way of acquiring citizenship is what is known as citizenship by legacy. Okay? That I am a citizen of India, but my child is born outside India. Then by legacy, that person can acquire citizenship of India. That's citizenship by legacy. The fourth is by naturalization. That is, if I have nothing to do with India. See, earlier four all have to do with people with Indian origin. Now, the naturalization has nothing to do with people of Indian origin. It is, I am a non-Indian. I want to acquire citizenship of India. Then I can stay here for a certain number of years, 12 years, etc., and then say that now make me a citizen of India. I can apply for citizenship. I can become a citizen. But this provision is not applicable to illegal migrants, please remember. So if I am treated as an illegal migrant, okay, I cannot acquire citizenship. Okay. even by applying for it after staying here for 20 years. So that route, say for instance for people in Assam who may be people who have come from Bangladesh or who are treated as people who have come from Bangladesh, is not open. Is not open. Okay? So this route is not open. And the fifth way of acquiring citizenship, I am just concluding. Fifth way of acquiring citizenship is by acquisition of territory. That is Sikkim is acquired and all Sikkimis become citizens of India. So so these are the 5 ways of acquiring citizenship. I guess my time is up, so I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mihir. Vrinda Grover, Advocate Supreme Court, and after which we will have a video presentation.
Thank you. Before I speak about citizenship amendment bill which lapsed when Parliament ended for the last government, I just want to mention a few things which have been said earlier, and I think there are, I actually have seriously conflicted and inadequate understanding of Assam, and I do take on board very seriously what Sanjoy Hazarika has pointed to, as well as what Abdul has told us. So there are many dimensions that we need to look at, and I think that is something that all of us, particularly those who may not be very familiar with Assam, need to understand, even as we try and see what is the way around this, if not out of this. But I just want to point to 3 things which I think are myths that we tend to live with, and it's time to abandon them. A perfectly run, error-free NRC. It seems to be this magic that is going to happen because some bureaucrats are going to suddenly be both honest and efficient. As one of the earlier speakers said, that it's inefficient and dishonest. Well, I think if we were to read from colonial times accounts of how bureaucrats have worked, nothing much would have really changed. So I think this error-free, efficient NRC will not exist. There will be a lot of prejudice, not just against persons of different religions, but against poor people, which runs right across the implementation of NRC in its present form. The second thing that I just want to flag here is that, we need to create new grades of citizens. Some who will work but will not be citizens. Of course, everybody, as alongside said, they're not going to be taken away to another country. So we are talking of people who will be stateless, who will not be citizens of any country. And we are now imagining that there is this workforce, and we know how important bargaining for a workforce to secure even basic rights at work are considered. And therefore, we are imagining a workforce which is going to be able to secure some basic rights at work without being a citizen. The third thing is, and this I'm afraid many friends here I know don't share my view on this, that documents are some magic thing in this world which are going to prove who we are, what we are, and that actually does relate to this error-free systems that state runs, which they don't run. But perhaps we are all middle-class privileged and don't run into those havocs very frequently. Aadhaar being a case in point. Faizan, I actually don't share your enthusiasm for NPR, and not just because of biometrics. My concern with biometrics is not about misuse, it's about state having power over the citizen, which is not what a democracy is meant to be about. And I think we are increasingly ceding control. We need to deliberate much more on the NPR before we think this is a good way forward. These are some of the myths that I think that float in around us, and I'm sure there will be speakers better versed with the situation than me who will speak about documents and NRC. My two concerns is about Article 21 will be available. I don't even know if Article 21 is available to ordinary citizens of this country anymore. So please do not ask us to have faith while institutions crumble and we see them abdicate their duty and responsibility. Legal aid will be provided to all. It's not provided in the best of times and the kind of legal aid that's provided. Both the justices sitting here have actually presided over those committees and know well how they function. So let's not offer solutions which in the last 70 years have actually broken down. I'm going to come quickly to CAB. Part of what I had to say, actually Mihir has already said. He's alerted us to the 2 notifications that were made in 2015 with respect to the Foreigners Act as well as the Passport Act, and these orders exist, their passport entry into India rules, which were amended in 8 September 2015. I'm informed that these have perhaps been challenged in the Supreme Court. I don't have the details. I hope we will be able to secure those details. I will just start with going back to the 1985 Accord and read out 2 clauses. The Assam Accord of 1985, I'm reading clause 6, which says, envisage that appropriate constitutional, legislative, and administrative safeguards shall be provided to protect, preserve, and promote the cultural, social, linguistic identity and heritage of the Assamese people. Clause 5.8 says, foreigners who came to Assam on or after March 25, 1971 shall continue to be detected, deleted, and expelled in accordance with law. Immediate and practical steps shall be taken to expel such foreigners. And as somebody pointed out earlier, those steps are now being taken vis-a-vis the NRC, and much has been spoken about that and will be by other speakers. I will jump to the BJP's manifesto of 2014, which said that one of its guiding principles for foreign policy shall be India shall remain a natural home for persecuted Hindus and they shall be welcome to seek refuge here. In 2019, the BJP manifesto explicitly states its commitment towards passing a citizenship amendment bill. Will the citizenship amendment bill go through Parliament this round? Well, most laws seem to go through. There is scant, if any, debate or discussion. Their challenge in courts is are not very hopeful or optimistic. What is the statement of objects and reasons saying to us and why does it select, as was pointed out by Mihir, these 3 countries and 6 religions, Hindu, Sikh, Christians, Parsis, Buddhists, Jains? And if they have been religiously persecuted or fear religious persecution from these 3 countries, is religious persecution of these minorities in those countries a fact? Yes, it is. And I think it's important for us not to shy away from these kind of things. I remember in Rajasthan, for instance, you have an entire community of Sodas, etc., who are Sindhis, who have moved to Rajasthan because of religious persecution. However, there is a distinction. The Rajasthan government, particularly during BJP rule, and not much changes if there is Congress rule, actually enthusiastically provides them the access to means and facilitates their citizenship acquisition rather than puts them under the scanner and has all manner of security agencies monitoring their daily lives. The statement of objects and reasons of CAB says, and it does not show you why there is a selective application, under the existing provisions of the Act, persons belonging to minority communities such as Hindu, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, Parsis, and Christians from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, who have either entered India without valid travel documents or the validity of their documents has expired, are regarded as illegal migrants and hence ineligible to apply for Indian citizenships. It is proposed to make them eligible for applying for Indian citizenship. So just to pause here for 1 minute. So it's not that we have too many people, and it's not that we have scant resources, and we cannot take a single more person in who is going to become a citizen. we seem to be a country which is willing to embrace more and take on more people on its citizenship register. Many persons of Indian origin, including persons belonging to the aforesaid minority communities, have been applying for citizenship under Section 5 of the Act, but are unable to produce proof of their Indian origin. Hence, they are forced to apply for citizenship by naturalization under Section 6, which prescribes 12 years of residency as qualification in terms of 3rd schedule of the Act. This denies them, this is interesting, this denies them many opportunities and advantages that may accrue only to the citizens of India. Obviously, these means right to voting, amongst others. Even though they are likely to stay in India permanently, it is proposed to amend the 3rd schedule of the Act to make applicants belonging to minority communities from the aforesaid countries eligible for citizenship by naturalization in 7 years instead of 12. I will, just to conclude, so one, many people have written that what is the rationale, this is arbitrary, what is the rationale for these 3 minority communities? Because actually nobody can deny today that perhaps in our region, nobody is a more persecuted minority community than the Rohingya Muslims, and we don't have Myanmar on the list of countries from where they will come. There are actually also Rohingya Hindus. There is a group, they are Rohingya Hindus. Myanmar is still not on the list because then you would default have to bring in others, and the rationale of religious persecution would give way. What is the political project here? It is actually quite explicit. There is nothing concealed or hidden from anybody, that this is a step towards making a Hindu Rashtra, and how these are all pathways to it. So these people will be given citizenship rights, because although they will not have, so everything that a person in Assam is today saying that I'm not being able to prove, what we are offering is that we will withhold certain rights, mainly your rights for voting, etc., and you can work and you can live. I think the very poignant example that Neera Chandhoke took here, you cannot live unless you are equipped with all rights. And therefore, I don't think these solutions are necessarily answers to the problem that we are confronting. The Citizenship Amendment Bill will resurface sooner rather than later, and I think it's important for us therefore to see what is the import of it and how will we challenge it. It's not necessarily a challenge that has to be only taken up in a courtroom, but needs to be argued elsewhere also. I will just end with actually reiterating precisely what was very eloquently said by Neera Chandhoke, that what this is confronting us with is the formation of the nation state, is the way we conceive of citizenship. And we will not be able to wriggle out of this situation by finding easy answers, because Assam does represent a complexity. And I think that complexity must be taken on head on and not be seen in simple binaries. I totally agree with that. At the same time, who is being targeted and who is despairing more? And like Sonjoy, I have a few other friends who have chosen not to get onto the NRC. Others will not be able to live a single day without getting onto the NRC. So we will have to keep all that in mind when we weigh what the possible answers here are, and we will have to look at the historical place that we are coming from. Having said which, I think it would be important also to say here that who has driven the NRC? It's not just the government that drove the NRC, so did the Supreme Court of India. Thank you.
Thank you, Vrinda. We have one more presentation in this section on citizenship and its evolution.
Thank you for inviting me to participate in the
We have a testimony from Professor Indrajit Roy from York University.
Thank you for inviting me to participate in the proceedings of this tribunal. I am Indrajit, lecturer in global development politics at the University of York. I research, among other things, the dynamics of political, social, and economic citizenship. The issues raised by the National Register of Citizens and the Constitution Amendment Bill are of utmost importance not only for Assam and other northeastern states, but for how citizenship is imagined across India. In the next few minutes, I want to very briefly reflect on the evolution of citizenship in India and how the present moment marks a radical departure. Now, we often think of citizenship in de jure civil juridical terms, as rights that outline the relationship between individuals and the nation states that confer the status of citizens on them. But in fact, the foundational rights to which citizenship pertains are to do with the right to recognition, inclusion, membership, and presence in society. Citizenship is thus about the right to have rights. Now, in India, the imagination of citizenship has undergone significant changes since the anti-colonial movement. The Motilal Nehru Committee report back in 1928, the product of all-party deliberations and endorsed by an inclusive all-party conference which included the Congress Party, the Muslim League, and the Hindu Mahasabha, among others, affirmed the just solid principle of citizenship. That is, the principle that you were a citizen on account of being born within the territory of a country. Anyone who was born or naturalized, or was the child of a father born or naturalized within the territorial limits of India, was to be a citizen. The Nehru report prefigured the Indian Constitution, and as this audience will know, Articles 5 to 11 of the Constitution deal with the provisions of citizenship extensively, including the rights of migrants and refugees to India from Pakistan, as well as those who migrated to Pakistan from India. So Article 5, for instance, tells us that every person domiciled in the territory of India and 1. born in the territory, or 2. either of their parents born in the territory of India, or 3. who has ordinarily been resident in the territory of India for not less than 5 years immediately preceding such commencement, is a citizen of the country. This was ratified by the Parliament in 1955. Now, in 1987, amendments introduced by the Congress government, as it happens in the wake of development in Assam, changed a lot of these principles. The amendment abolished the jus soli principle of citizenship and embraced the jus sanguinis principle, which tells us that citizenship is obtained by relation of blood, by descent. So a person born in India was now considered an Indian citizen only if either parent was a citizen at the time of their birth. In 2004, the UPA government made further amendments. A person born in India was considered an Indian citizen only if both parents were citizens, or if one parent was a citizen and the other not an illegal immigrant at the time of that person's birth. So we've seen the ways in which the just solid principle was diluted over 3 or 4 decades, and India began to embrace a jus sanguinis principle. But what we also have to note is that despite embracing the jus sanguinis principle, citizenship laws so far steered clear of religion. Theoretically and juridically, your religion didn't matter when it came to applying for citizenship. Now, as previous speakers have pointed out, the exercise in Assam at the moment and the proposed Citizenship Amendment Bill seeks to change all that. While the Indian state clearly has an obligation to protect indigenous communities from being numerically and economically overwhelmed, introducing a religious element in the name of protecting persecuted minorities from neighboring states, but of course excluding Muslims from within the ambit of citizenship, is certainly not the way to go. So I want to close my short note by coming back to the formulation of citizenship as the right to have rights, as a foundational right of recognition, inclusion, membership, and presence in a political community. The moment a state begins to strip certain sections of its political community of this foundational right, the moment we start withdrawing recognition as members, the moment we initiate converting some insiders into outsiders, we open ourselves to a fractured political community. Previous governments have done their bit to fracture India's political community, no doubt. But by introducing religion into the imagination of citizenship, the present dispensation seeks to fundamentally alter our imagination of membership in the political community, along the lines that were attempted in Europe during the 1930s. The consequences, as we all know, were ghastly. I wish you all the best in your deliberations, and thanks once again for inviting me and listening to me. Thank you.